Sorry.
Sorry.
Is there a, you said that you've seen where finishing services have branched out into visual effects. Do you think there's any barriers for the other way around, other than having to hire and sort of, as you said, quote unquote, build a new company?
No, I don't think there are any barriers. I think, you can, no, not at all.
Right. And the decision-making process for, choosing who handles those, other post-production service offerings are still through, yourself, right? Or the producer.
Yes, they're through. In terms of choosing the finishing house who's going to do the online, who's going to do the sound, who's going to do the color.
Right.
Yes, except say to a certain degree. But again, just as with the visual effects, the director may be involved. When it comes to the colorist, the DP or cinematographer will be very, very involved usually, because the DP, the director of photography, lives and dies by the colorist. So that's always, for me personally, I always reach out to, and I think any post-producer does, to the director of photography, and they will be heavily involved in the choice of a colorist. And a lot of times, and I'm glad this is coming up because this is important to know, a lot of times the finishing online and all of that sort of basic finishing is driven by the colorist. In other words, if I have a project, the first thing I need to do is have a conversation with the director of photography to find out if he or she has any favorite colorists or any colorists that they want to work with. And then I need to look at where that colorist is located, and I will plan 99% of the time to set up all my finishing there. Not visual effects, but the online and all that, because the online is such an automated process, and but your colorist is a key person. So if you're thinking in terms, and I'll get to sound in a minute, but if you're thinking in terms of let's say a visual effects house, expanding into color and online and all of that, one of the hurdles could be, and it depends on the scope. Again, if you're dealing with low budget projects, a lot of times really low budget projects, they're just looking for a package deal where they can get it all in and bring their rates down. But I'm talking about, more standard budget projects, and even high budget projects. If you're a visual effects house and you have hired colorists and you want to do that as well, the trick is, if you're thinking that you're going to, once you bid on a project for the visual effects, you're going to bring that show in and you're going to get their color work too. Very, 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 very tricky. Mm-hmm. Probably not going to happen in most cases unless, the stars line up perfectly, because again, the colorist is driven by the director of photography's desires and needs. In order for them to do their best work, they have to have a colorist who gets them, who hopefully they have a reputation with, and so that's one thing to know. And then in terms of sound, sound is probably less difficult because there are a lot of good mixing teams out there, and even though that decision will be like a collective decision, sometimes not the director, but sometimes the producers will have, other people will have ideas about who the sound team is, but I can usually pitch sound teams, and people, others on the team, my team will, whether it's the director or other producers, will get involved and want to see their credits and so on, and that'll be sort of group decision. But the color, for some reason, can be a really tricky one. So just pointing that out.
Yeah, no, that's very helpful. Really helpful information. And then when we think of these sort of